All right, so welcome to day one of the virtual health spa, where we're going to rejuvenate your body and mind. It all sounds very glamorous. My marketing gurus helped me come up with that. I'm still not convinced. It's the right way to look at it. But they said it was really good, so I went with it. So I apologize if it's a bit naff. So in today's health spa, if you could mute your mic for the moment, just to avoid any interruptions or any noise that goes on in the background. If you do have to dash off, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and do that. It is completely open-ended. If you do have any questions, whilst I've got the slides up, it can be quite difficult for me to see what's going on in the background. But I will try and keep an eye on the chat box as well. So if you do have any questions and you don't want to interrupt what I'm saying, post a message in the chat box, and I'll do my best to try and include that question that you have in there in the presentation. So as I said, this is being recorded. So if you don't want to be recorded, you can turn your video off and turn your microphone off. That's completely fine. I'm going to edit out this front bit anyway. And if you have bought a premium ticket, it's about £37. Then you'll get all the recordings as well. And you'll also get invited to a private Q&A session with me after the event, kind of like a follow-up in about a week's time to make sure that anything that you thought you were going to do from the outcome of taking these spa days, then it's kind of my way of keeping you accountable and keeping you on track. So we'll do a bit of a Q&A in about a week's time, and I'll send out the details of that afterwards as well. There's also a few other benefits of participation, and we'll come on to those later on. So we've already done the introductions around the room, so thank you very much for taking part of that. And for those of you who don't know me, what are you doing here for a start? How did you get here? How did you find me? My name is Paul Bailey. I'm a nutrition coach and a life coach as well. So I tend to take a much more holistic approach to health and nutrition, and also throw in a little bit of fitness as well for good measure. But because I do life coaching as well, I tend to talk a lot about not just nutrition, but also mindset, about how you can improve your relationship with food and fitness and even yourself, to try and make it easier for you to make small improvements on a regular basis so that you can make long-term change stick. So I also help people with stress management, confidence building, and of course, self-care as well. And I've helped hundreds of guys like you learn to love food again, because that's quite often one of the things that people just kind of take for granted. Because we have to eat every day, we just put out whatever we have. And I help people build up their confidence with food and help them to realize that it can actually be something that you can enjoy every single meal. It doesn't have to be the same thing day in, day out, boring. And you can still have fun food. There is room for treats and sweets and burgers. Talking of burgers, I had a burger just before I came on here. It was a plant-based burger, so it's kind of a little bit healthier, maybe. But yeah, so there is room for fun food as well. So never feel like that you should be guilted or shamed into thinking that you have to eat a certain type of food, you have to be a certain type of person. Everybody is different. Everybody will be running at a different speed, losing weight at a different rate, or gaining muscle at a different pace. So it really is what works for you and allows you to do it consistently for a longer period of time. That's really what we're trying to get here and aim for, because if you can do it for the rest of your life, it's no longer a diet, it's no longer a restriction, it's something that is just the way that you've integrated eating better, living a bit healthier, being a bit fitter, and you can do that for as long as you need to, and hopefully for the rest of your life. So just a little bit of a background. As you can see from the picture, I work out a little bit. A lot of people comment on the fact that well, you clearly don't have any problems with weight, but they don't kind of take into account that in my 20s, I was really scrawny, really underweight. And I used to get described by people as the gaunt looking one or the sickly looking one. And so I was kind of quite put off by that and made an effort to eat a little bit more. And then sort of went to the other side of the scale and started to be a bit more chunky and maybe a little bit overweight and not quite so healthy. And by my mid 30s, I was, having to go up in jean sizes and not feeling very comfortable after a meal because I was so stuffed, and really sort of started to struggle. And that's kind of when I started to realize that I was having knock-on effects with other health issues that actually weren't quite as evident. So I was suffering from high cholesterol. I also have sleep apnea. And that's been something that people don't see when they see that picture of me. So I do understand that there is more to health and fitness than just working out and looking a bit buff. There is a lot more to looking after yourself. And I think that's really where the emphasis needs to go. So again, a little bit more of a backstory. These are my parents, or these were my parents. So this is a picture of my mother and my father. And it's kind of the driving force of why I'm so focused on nutrition and health and trying to be as fit and as well as I possibly can be for as long as I can. So my mother in this picture was 45 years old, and she was on holiday with my father at the time. And when she came back, 2 weeks after coming back from this holiday, at 45 years old, she literally dropped dead in front of me from a heart attack. I was 13 at the time. So obviously losing your mother at any age is pretty traumatic, but for it to happen in those circumstances, it really scared the shit out of me, because especially as I got older, you realize that 45 is not that old. You suddenly think, oh my God, she had years ahead of her of being active and enjoying life. And so as I got closer and closer to the age of 45, I had this almost feeling like a doomsday clock over my head, counting down to being 45. Will I be able to survive past the age that my mother was? And this is brought home even harder when my father started to suffer from vascular dementia in his 70s. And prior to that, he was still as fit as a fiddle, running on a regular basis. But his vascular dementia, caused by basically tiny strokes that were going off in his brain, over a period of time, he ended up being bedridden for the last 4 years of his life. And again, I was thinking, this is not how I want to go. If there's anything I can do to mean that I can live healthier, not so much longer. I mean, yeah, we'd all like to live a long life, but it's more about living a healthy life that I was really more getting to the point of becoming obsessed with. So as I say, both of them were very fit and active. They ran a dancing school part-time. They were both keen sort of joggers, maybe not runners, but they were definitely keeping fit. And as I say, I get a lot of comments about the fact that I look fit. And the trouble is, you can't see the issues of vascular dementia building up. You can't see the problems with maybe a hidden heart disease that hasn't yet been diagnosed. So these are all, in my mind, I'm genetically predisposed to suffer from these. So if there's anything I can do to help me and help you to prevent this, then I would absolutely do that. In my 30s, I was fully diagnosed with sleep apnea. So for the last 21 years, I've been wearing this frigging thing on my face every time I go to bed. And again, most people would associate sleep apnea with somebody that is obese or morbidly obese. As you can see, I'm neither of those, but I still have to wear them. And again, it's kind of a genetic thing. I just don't have the capacity to breathe sufficiently at night. So I've ended up having to wear a CPAP machine for the last 20 years. And if you follow my personal Facebook page, you would have seen that my machine broke 2 weeks ago. And so I spent a week and a bit without my machine. And it reminded me how exhausted I was all the time, and how important to me looking after myself is, and making sure that I am getting enough sleep, I'm getting the right things to eat. So please don't judge a book by its cover. Just because somebody may look fit and healthy doesn't mean that they are. I know a number of people who are skinny as rakes, but they still have high cholesterol. And that really is going to be down to genetics and, yes, nutrition as well. So I would like to go around the room again and find out, what is your why? Because my why, as I just explained there, was my parents dying at a relatively early age, and maybe not quite so early, but from what I considered a really difficult way to die. And it's a tough thing to face up to, but by thinking about what is your why do you want to be healthier? Why do you want to eat better? Why do you want to be fitter? If you could let me know, just unmute yourself and tell me, what's your reason? Hey, why are you here? What are you hoping that you'll avoid or mitigate by learning to eat a little bit better?
I'll go ahead and go. I retired about 6 years ago. And since then, I've really gotten into traveling. So we travel quite a lot. And I'd like to keep doing that. But in traveling, it's a very active thing. You have to, if you're going on tours, you have to walk, or you have to go upstairs, or you have to do this and that. And then even just going on vacation, sometimes I like to swim in the ocean, or I like to go in the pool, or various things. And I could just feel myself losing more and more stamina all the time, and not being able to do what I want to do. And I don't want to do that. I'd like to keep that as long as I can. So that's a big part of it for me.
Mm. Yeah, it is quite difficult when you have to come to terms with the fact that, yeah, I'm not getting any younger, and things are starting to ache. And when do we start making that noise when we get out of a chair and go, oh? They're all kind of signals that, yeah, this isn't going to last forever. And my grandmother used to say, old age doesn't come alone, you know. It's like, don't you? Yes, you're right. Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else want to share their why? Why do you want to be a bit healthier? Why do you want to focus on improving your nutrition and health?
Yes, I can. I suffer with arthritis. I mean, I retired about 6 years ago, and everything was fine for 12 months. Then I sort of neglected myself because my parents were ill, and then my wife was ill. So really, eating became just a habit, something to do at the right time or whenever I could fit it in. So I got bad eating habits. And as you know, Paul, I've now sort of fallen back in love with food, but I want to retain that. And exercise is important to me. And I am at the moment on a daily walking regime because of the arthritis I've got. I'm in pain from the time I wake up and sometimes in bed. So, and I'm on the dreaded painkillers. So I do need to try to keep moving. And it's a battle, but I feel that exercise along with diet is important to me. And also, I don't sleep very well still. And also, I'm looking forward to ways to stop me nibbling. particularly at night.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly, I will be going into more detail in that later on, but it is something that a lot of people struggle with. So we will cover that. Don't worry. It's no guarantees, but I have got a few tricks up my sleeve to try and help you with those sorts of things. Thank you very much, Phil. Anybody else?
No problem.
So I can go.
Yeah.
I kind of just turned 50, but I've always been interested in nutrition and looking after, a healthy lifestyle, but mind as well, healthy mind, spiritual as well. I kind of, the whole body, the whole package thing has always interested me. And I don't think I ever want to stop learning. I'm always trying to self-improve, trying to learn more. Nutrition, I don't know a lot about. I mean, I know I usually cook my own meals and try and do that cook from fresh. But now I'm starting to pick up weight in my 50s. There's the belly, and the lockdown hasn't helped. And I work from home now. I have 2 jobs that keep me very busy, but it's all from home now. So I'm literally sitting at this desk all day, getting a little exercise, and that working hours have become longer and longer and longer. So it's just kind of looking for a little boost again and learning something new.
Perfect. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I mean, during the pandemic, we're still in the middle of it basically, but now that people are working from home, there's no longer a commute, and just that walking to your car or the train or whatever, it's incredible how the step count has dropped to like 3,000 from 8, 9, 10. And really, it is a case of the most steps you make are going to the toilet or going to the kitchen, which is, it's not a very healthy way. Yeah, all right. Thank you. That's brilliant. Would anybody else like to chip into what their why is? Why do you want to be a bit healthier? What are you trying to avoid or mitigate?
Yep, I'll have a go. Again, similar thing, I guess, since sort of 50s through for the last, 13 years now, the weight's crept up and the exercise has gone down. I think I have a reasonably good diet, but I could do with a bit of portion control and helping with that. The exercise I do tend to get is the dogs, but they're now getting on a bit, so that's got slower and less further. It's, I know I need to get up and have a wander around the village myself, and it is quite hilly, so that sort of will be pretty good exercise once I get out there and do it. But it's sort of I know what I've got to do. It is sort of the motivation is lacking a bit, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, I mean, understanding your why you want to do this, what is going to help you with motivation. So it's really important that people think about the reason that they're doing this. It's all well and good to think, well, I know I need to lose a little bit of weight, and my doctor says I need to. But you need your own personal reason, your own driving factor, your own why, because otherwise it's easy to make excuses. It's easy to sort of poo-poo the ideas and think, I'll do it tomorrow. The biggest thing at the moment is, yeah, well, Christmas is coming up, so I won't start until the new year. And it's that kind of, well, if that were true, then you would have started this last New Year, or maybe you did, and then you'd fallen off the wagon again. So understanding exactly what the driving factor is, as I said, for me, seeing both my parents die in a way that I didn't feel comfortable with was such a strong driving factor for me, that it really has helped me push through to other things. So I'll carry. Did anybody else want to chip in? Otherwise, I'll just carry on. Does anybody else want to say what their why is? Yeah, Norman, go ahead.
Well, the last couple of years, I've been having gastrointestinal issues, I haven't been very assertive when I was eating, from when I was child, adolescent, and then busy life, you postpone meals and all of that. And then COVID hit and we stay home and became sedentary, and same as Don, sometimes, walking, getting up, doing things, it feels like, oh, but I've been diagnosed with IBS-C, I've been diagnosed with SIBO, and it was a time for me to take action and start doing something that is going to be beneficial for me. And I started working with Paul about it. And definitely, it has been a totally switch of how I was feeling and how I'm feeling now. And definitely, find the joy of eating, getting a better connection and relationship with the food that you eat, and portion control and all of that. I think it's been, very excellent. And I would like to, keep this way, because even though my goal is not losing weight, that is part of also one of the issues that I have more weight than I'm supposed to have according to my height and all of that. But I'm losing it by pretty much paying attention what I'm eating and introducing new ingredients to my regular meals, and that is being very helpful. So I just want to continue and keep nourishing that part that allow me to differentiate portion control one side, and the other thing also knowing which products and things I can eat that is not going to be any damage or cause me something discomfort that I used to have before.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Norman. Mikey, did you want to go ahead? You don't have to.
Yeah, sure. Slightly embarrassed actually. So I've got for me, my journey is I've got a couple of mental health issues around food. And really it's for education, and also for the fact that during the pandemic and slightly before, the weight with the not going out as much and the step count and stuff, I've kind of not been as active as I should have been. And I've noticed the weight has crept up quite a lot, and my parents have got genetic conditions that can be passed on to me as well. Like my mum has diabetes, which I'm trying to avoid. And I think it's just an educational thing to kind of prevention rather than cure, just go through life as as healthily as I can, really.
Yeah,
that was it.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you, Mikey. And I personally have found it very interesting to see how many people have discovered over the pandemic that they're struggling with mental health, all different sort of types. And even now, as we're sort of getting to the point where we're kind of more used to it, it's almost like a lot of people have PTSD. They're really still scared about going out and mixing with other people and doing the things that they used to enjoy and love. And there's very little light at the end of the tunnel at the moment. So it is very, very difficult. So I thank you for bringing that up, because I do think it's a lot of people are still struggling, but they're just not talking about it. So it's really good to have somebody like you on here who's able to say that you've been struggling. Thank you. I really appreciate it. So thank you very much for sharing everybody's why. I think it does sort of explain and sort of demonstrate how everybody's got different reasons, but they all kind of have a similar trait, that they all want to just be a little bit better than they maybe are at the moment, and they want to improve themselves and learn and discover what is new. Because I get quite a lot of people say to me, I know what I need to do, but I just don't do it. And it's like, well, they are two very different things. Knowing what you need to do and actually doing that are very different. And there is a gap in between. And hopefully I will help fill that gap and allow you to learn, grow and develop and implement new ways of being that little bit healthier. So, right, let's go back to my slides again, just so I can remember where the hell I am and what I'm doing here. Here we go. Right. So that's the why. And so then is the what is your biggest struggle? Philip has already mentioned one of the ones that a lot of people do, and that's the snacking that a lot of people do. And I'm just going to read through here. So I'm going to give you guys a bit of a rest, but feel free to unmute yourself if you do want to chip in. So from the group that I run, and I posted on there a while back, what is your biggest struggle when it comes to being healthier? And some of the things that people were saying were craving for sweet things, after dinner snacks, boredom. So that kind of mindless eating, just habit, really. The need for simple prep options. So being able to do quick and easy food, particularly if you live alone. And you're only cooking for one person, sometimes it can feel like it's a bit of a chore, that you're having to do all this effort just to cook for one person. It almost seems like, well, what's the point? Let's just have a ready meal. So that's kind of where I come in and reintroduce the benefits of falling back in love with making food and eating food again. Another thing that people say, the bad things are nice and more alluring. Well, I kind of try to edge people away from good and bad food. Food is just food, but it's the quantity, quality, and frequency that you have that can cause it to be detrimental. I mean, as I said at the beginning, I had a burger before I came on here, but it was a plant-based burger, and I cooked it myself, so it wasn't from some greasy hamburger joint. So it was a little bit better. I don't have them every day. I have them like once every couple of weeks or so, because it's something I really like. But I'll not overindulge when I have that. I won't have a massive portion of fries with it. I won't have a massive shake or something like that to go with it, to try and make it a little bit better. Some people often will eat too much to compensate for what they're really longing for. And that's quite an interesting thing as well, talking about trying to restrict what you're eating, but then ending up actually binging on things later on. And I will come on to how to tackle that later too. What else? Oh, shopping for ingredients. Health food is hard to find and expensive. I get this a lot from my American friends. What are you guys doing out there? Why is healthy food so expensive? I mean, it seems like if you don't go to Whole Foods, then you don't class it as healthy. It's like, you can buy fruit and veg pretty much everywhere. You don't have to go to Whole Foods. I think a lot of it is also to do with organic as well, which in Europe and in the UK, organic doesn't really mean a great deal different to what we have already. Whereas in America, there is actually quite a bit of a difference. So it's still a bit of a marketing ploy to get you to pay a little bit more. But ultimately, you don't need to go that far. You can eat healthy by just buying what's in your local grocery store. So some of the frustrations and struggles that other people had were snacking on sweets and chocolate, salted peanuts and other nuts. Nuts are really, really good for you, but you've got to have a tiny palm-sized portion of them because they are full of fat. The urge for comfort eating when you're having a bad day or things haven't quite gone to plan, or you're just having a fuck it day. That's usually when the urge to have just whatever you want and as much of it as you want comes in. So that's another sort of frustration that a lot of people struggle with. Yeah, so I'll move on, but those are kind of some of the things that maybe people resonate with, some of those issues and frustrations and struggles that other people were having. I will talk about some of my clients. There are actually a couple of clients on this call today. And my clients quite often as I say, tell me they know what they should do, but they just struggle to put it into practice. And that's kind of really where I come in, to join those two together. But these, my clients are willing to admit that they've tried to do this for quite some time and they're just not getting it down. They're not getting it to stick. Quite often people will successfully diet. They'll do a diet for a period of time, but then they end up finding a social event happens, Christmas happens, and they fall off the wagon, and then it's really, really difficult to get back on again. They understand that it didn't take them 12 weeks to get where they are today. So whether it's weight, whether it's high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, it's gonna take longer than 12 weeks for you to undo decades of not really quite worrying about what you're eating, but you know what you should do. So it's going to take a little bit of time. So the clients I work with know that they're in this for the long run, and it's a lifestyle change that they're looking for and not a diet. They've done the diets, they've lost a bit of weight, and then they've gained it back again, or they've made themselves ill, or they end up thinking, I love bread. I can't do the keto diet. I can't do low carb because I love bread, and there's nothing wrong with that. It can be a part of your healthy everyday diet. Maybe not every meal, and maybe not half a loaf, but yeah, you can have bread. It's okay, unless of course you have celiac disease, in which case you are going to struggle. So they are looking for a lifestyle change, not a diet. And they understand that there is more to being healthy than just the number on the scales. It frustrates me that, especially with doctors, when you go to the GP, the first thing they look at is your weight and your BMI. And they are probably the last indicators of health that really somebody should be looking at, because weight and BMI tell you how heavy you are, and a scale according to a guy in the 1920s who was making some bizarre comparison that now we use on a daily sort of medical background, and it just doesn't make sense. If you have any kind of musculature, if you're a bodybuilder, for example, you will be classed as morbidly obese because you have too much body weight. And again, as I said earlier on, you could be as skinny as a rake and still have high cholesterol, yet your BMI would be quite low. So it just doesn't make sense. And often when people tell me they want to lose weight, and I say, well, how much do you want to lose? They give me this number that's based on BMI. And it's like, that's fine if you're probably in your 20s, but in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, that doesn't apply as much anymore. You actually want to have a little bit of body fat, a little bit of weight, because if you get ill, you're going to need those resources to be able to get you through those illnesses. Whereas when you're in 20s, you just bounce back, it's fine. But as you get older, it is something that we need to seriously consider. So actually aiming for the top end of the BMI, if we are going to use that, or even just a little bit over, then that's probably a better place to be. And I also explain to people that if you are going to have a number, make it something that as you approach that number, you're willing to change it. And maybe you don't need to hit that number ultimately, because initially that's coming from what we've been told we need to be. But as you approach that number, you'll probably find that you feel more comfortable, you feel more confident, your clothes fit better. You don't need to be a skinny bitch. So yeah, health is much more than just number on the scales. Your blood work is going to be a major indicator. Your genetics are going to be enormous. You know, what your parents and grandparents died from, damn you, is going to be something you have to take seriously. So, and they realize that it's now time for them to focus on themselves. Most of the guys that I work with are older and therefore have gone through a situation of caring for a partner, caring for a loved one, caring for parents, and they've now got themselves into a situation where you think, do you know what? I need to look after myself a little bit. And I kind of explain this in the way of, just like when you get onto an airplane, you put your own oxygen mask on before you help others. Because if you're not fit and healthy, you're not going to be in a position to be there for other people. And most of us kind of want to be able to be that person that can help and be there for other people. And the only way you can do that is by looking after yourself. And then finally, self-care is not selfish. Looking after yourself is not a selfish act. It means that you are going to be fitter, healthier, less of a burden to other people, and actually able to be there for other people. However, I can't help everybody. There are people that are looking for tips, for quick fixes, for rapid weight loss. I had somebody that I was talking to the other day who I always say to people, you know, I tend to recommend losing 1 to 2 pounds or half a kilo to a kilo per week. So, you know, you want to lose 100 pounds. So I would recommend that we aim for that to take about 100 weeks. And you could just see his face drop, because it was like, but I can just go on the low carb diet and lose half of that in a few hours, you know. They just have this crazy mindset. And it's like that. The trouble is that's not sustainable. You're going to be losing not just body fat, but also muscle. You're going to affect your metabolism. You're going to reduce your muscle mass, your muscle mass. And it's just not a healthy way of living. And when you do have a social event, suddenly, what do you do with the diet? Are you going to be that person that refuses to eat 90% of what's put in front of them? Or are you going to enjoy life? And again, people that focus on one metric, just the number on the scales, it's a really unhealthy way of looking at it. I tend to get people to do a number of different measurements: weight, measuring around your belly, but also think about how your clothes fit. And that's probably a better indicator of how well you're doing, because you know that if your clothes are feeling a little bit less snug and a little bit more comfy, you kind of feel a bit better about yourself. And that whole process kind of just leads you on to be more motivated to continue to do it for just that little bit longer and just keep doing it. And I don't make apologies to my clients, but some of them have to buy new wardrobes because their shape changes so much. It's like, well, sorry, I should have, you know, included that in my fee. And the other thing that people say to me that I can't really combat with is they just need to do this next diet because they know that if they just try harder, it's going to fix everything and they'll be fine. Because the thing is, what you're saying is that you've never tried hard enough in your entire life. In every diet that you've ever done, you've never tried hard enough. And I think that's a really bad way to look at your own health, because it's kind of very demoralizing. And instead, I prefer people, instead of trying harder, just make it easier. Take smaller steps, be gentle on yourself, and give yourself a chance. Because unless you do that, you're not ready to make real change. You just want a quick fix. You want to do it now. You want to, you know, lose 10 pounds in a month. It's just not good for you. And it really does ring that this is something that you've been told you need to do. Whereas I'm trying to educate people in that if you can just do it slowly, gently, look after yourself while you're doing it, you can actually enjoy the process. You know, as Phil said, you can actually enjoy food and fall back in love with food again. So what I'm going to be giving you is hopefully real actionable steps to help you take your health and nutrition to the next level. I'm going to give you a deeper understanding of nutrition, of how it works, and learn to focus on solutions rather than symptoms. One of the symptoms that a lot of people talk about is belly fat. And belly fat is not a problem. It's a symptom of a problem. So we focus on belly fat, you're never going to fix the underlying cause of what caused the belly fat and how to get rid of it permanently. So I'll be talking about that as well. I'll also be talking about how to stop sugar cravings, snack cravings, those sorts of things. So Phil, pay attention. And also I'll be doing a section on mindset and how to improve your mindset, take stress management a little bit more seriously, and hopefully make things a little bit easier as you change, as you progress. So as I said, interaction and participation, you are not alone. So the fact that you're already sharing is going to be hugely beneficial to everybody else on this call and people who watch the recording, because your experiences, your struggles are shared by so many other people. It may feel like you're the only one sometimes, but I can guarantee there are going to be other people that maybe are struggling with it, but don't realize that that's what they were struggling with. Particularly mental health, particularly concerns about stress and your own mortality and things like that. It's something that we all think about, but quite often as men, we don't talk about. It's something that we kind of were brought up with, that, well, we don't talk about that kind of stuff. Hopefully is, you know, as we're getting older, we're realizing that actually it is okay to talk about this, and we just need to make an environment, hopefully like this, where you feel more comfortable talking about it, being open about it, and coming to your own realizations about what you need to do. So there are no silly questions. If you're not sure about something, please do ask, because it just means that I haven't explained it properly. And I do talk about this a lot, so hopefully it should make sense. But sometimes I'll use jargon, or I use phrases that are in phrases that I use in my group that you may not know about. So please do chip in and go, what do you mean by that? Then please do, because this is a judgment-free zone. And I do mean that seriously. There are a number of people that are in my group that I've promptly kicked out when they have cast any kind of judgment on anything that people have posted or talked about on the group. So I promise I will give you the support that you need to take the next steps to make your journey a success. And if you need more assistance in implementing that change, then later on I'll explain how that extra help could come in, working with me, whatever it is, the group, some of the resources that I have. This is not going to be a sales pitch. This is going to be pure content throughout the 4 days. And as I said, if you aren't able to join all 4 days, just get one of the tickets, and then you'll get the recordings as well. In addition to the participation and the people that have shared the spa, there is going to be a prize draw at the end, which is basically, I'm going to give you 3 months of one-to-one nutrition coaching, including nutrition, fitness, and mindset. Now, for those of you that haven't had that kind of chat with me before, this basically is a daily support thing. So every single day I will be contacting you. We'll be chatting either on Instant Messenger or on WhatsApp, and we will be working through a personalized workout plan. Not everybody starts with that. Sometimes we introduce that later on, but we'll have a personalized workout plan. We'll also discuss stress management, motivation, and accountability as well, because quite often when people get stressed, nutrition is the first thing to go out the window. And also we would have private video coaching calls as well for those 3 months. So if that is something that you're interested in, make sure you've registered for the draw. You should have got the link for it. If you don't have that, send me a message afterwards. And there are ways that you can add additional entries into the draw. So what I'm going to ask you at the end is to do some homework. And one of the pieces of the homework for this is to record a before and after video. So the before video is I'd like you to record just a 60-second video after this, saying about what you learned from today's session and what you're hoping to get from the other sessions that are coming up. And then at the end of the 4 sessions, I'll then ask you to record a after video of what you did get out of the 4 days. And I'll give you 5 additional entries for each of those videos. Each day, I'm going to give you another little bit of homework. Very simple, don't worry, don't panic. It's not going to be something stressful. And for everybody that completes the homework, you'll get another 3 entries. And for those of that do buy a ticket to get the recordings, I'm going to give you another 10 entries as well. So I don't like doing these pictures, but a picture is worth 1,000 words. Now, I talked about before and after videos. So these are before and after pictures. And I don't use these in my publicity. I don't use them in the group because I don't want people to focus on what other people look like and what other people have achieved. I want it to be what you want, what you achieve, and how you feel about it. But for this session, I'm going to give you some examples. So this is a client of mine. He had already lost a significant amount of weight, and he came to me because he was losing that weight through a meal replacement diet. And he was on basically the powdered shakes that you throw together and you drink. And he was on 800 calories a day. And he had lost a significant amount of weight. And he came to me because he wanted to go back onto real food, but he was absolutely petrified of doing that. And this is one of the biggest problems with going on a diet. It's what the hell do you do afterwards? And it was just setting him up with a terrible fear of where do you go next. So I put him on a real food 2,000 calorie diet. And this is what he achieved. And halfway through this, he was like, I don't understand. How am I eating 2,000 calories and I'm still losing weight? And it's because it was nutritious food, whole food, whole vegetables, you know, broccoli. But his body was having to process that food. He was having to chew it. He was having to throw, you know, stomach acid at it. It was trying to churn it all. Suddenly his body was doing what it needed to do, and it was utilizing the food in a much more efficient and effective way and getting in, you know, natural vitamins and minerals. Whereas the shakes, you just drink it. There's no chewing, there's no real acid required for it. It's just absorbed straight into your system. So you're literally soaking that stuff up like a sponge. And also when you're cooking, you're going shopping, you're buying food, suddenly you're increasing your calorie intake. You're being more active. And that's what he was missing. He was missing living because he wasn't eating properly. He wasn't enjoying food. And you know, he's now completed his second marathon because he's got a new zest for life, a passion for eating healthy, getting the best nutrition that he can, and getting these kinds of results. The next one, not quite easy to see because this gentleman has a dark skin tone, but you can see the change in his belly size. What I find really fascinating about this particular client is he didn't lose any weight. He's the same weight throughout. So this belly change, this reduction in belly, has converted into muscle tone as he ate better and got more energy and began to work out a little bit more. So he's actually the same weight as he is in this photo as he is in the last photo. Another one, people are obsessed with belly fat, so I have to show bellies. This is 6 weeks. Now, this is not typical. This is not a typical reaction that somebody would get to eating healthier. But this particular client really pushed himself. He was really eating as prescribed, as much as possible. However, after this, he did put a little bit of weight back on because he was too strict. And that's where it's really important that if you take this slowly, if you take care, if you take time, then you can make changes to the shape of your body, but don't go crazy. Be gentle with yourself. Aim to lose 1 to 2 pounds a week, half a kilo to a kilo, and just take your time. And then finally, the love handles. I still look at this photo and think, did I Photoshop that? Because it just looks so smooth and so different. It really is quite incredible. And this particular client was specifically interesting because he did none of the cooking at home. So I was coaching him to coach his partner to improve his nutrition. So I was giving him ideas and suggestions and pointing him in the right direction. And he was sending me pictures of what he was eating. And the pictures were stunning. And I did say, is your partner actually deliberately improving the way that these meals look? And it said, yes, he is absolutely paranoid now about what he's going to be sending to you. So I apologize to any partners out there that do get this experience. But again, this is something that a lot of people feel very conscious about, is the love handles. And this was 3 months. So this took a longer period of time, but that's the better way of doing it. And he continues to make improvements. He still feels like he has a bit of a belly. But I was explaining to him the other day after a catch-up call, well, how far do you want to go? Because if you want to get abs, you can get abs, but then you have to eat like somebody who wants abs, work out like somebody that wants abs, not have the fun food that you want to have like somebody who wants abs. And he was like, yeah, I'm not that bothered about it. Because he's already made such fantastic progress. And I think that that's where I come in and say, look, hang on, hold back a second. I appreciate that you do want to get rid of your belly fat, but how much of that do you really need to get rid of before you feel more confident and comfortable with yourself? And that's why I tend to focus more on how your clothes fit and how you feel, rather than the number on the scale and the size of your jeans or your belly size. So for me, the before and after pics that do matter to me, and I love this so much. So these are from Bill, who I talk about quite a lot because he tracks a lot of data. He's a diabetic, so I've got a lot of data on him. And we've been working together for most of the year, actually, so 11 months, trying to help him with his weight and his diabetes. So when I first started working with Bill, this was pretty much the first picture that he sent to me of his breakfast and then his mid-morning snack. It's a start. I mean, you know, I did have a chat to Bill earlier on today and I said, I'm going to be talking about you quite a bit, so you might want to join this call, but he's not been able to make it, unfortunately. So, I mean, obviously, egg, great source of protein. Eggs are now good again for you. Back in the 80s and 70s and 60s, they were, you know, don't have more than 1 egg a week, it'll kill you. Apparently now that's completely gone, you know, 180, and eggs are fine. You can have eggs. Really, you can have as many eggs as you like. It's not until you start to get like to 4, 5, 6 a day that you think, okay, maybe I should remove some of the oats because it's still got a bit of fat in there and you don't want to overdo it. So Bill, who is a diabetic, he is a type 2 diabetic and he's on metformin. I forget the other name of the medication, begins with a G, and he's also on insulin as well. And he had a conversation with his doctor because his diabetes was getting worse and worse and worse. And he basically said to him, exactly how much of this insulin can I take? Because I just seem to be upping and upping and upping and upping it. So we had a talk about his breakfast. I always like to start with the breakfast. If you don't have breakfast, whatever the first meal is of the day. And his first breakfast then became this. So he was swapping his original breakfast of 1 egg and 3 sausages. I mean, God knows what's in those sausages. Could be anything. He had 3 eggs, and usually he's rammed a load of veg in that omelette. So you can't see it, but he would often use the veg that he made from the night before, keep it overnight, and throw it into the omelette the following day. Half a slice of toast. This is really difficult to explain to people, to throw half a slice of bread away. It's like, that's wasting food. You can't do that. Like, okay, well, cut it in half and have the other half and toast it and have the other half tomorrow. It's like, oh, damn it, you got me. Half a toast of bread, half a slice of toast. And again, for him, as a diabetic, we were really focusing on reducing his carbohydrate, but still getting some carbohydrate into his diet, but keeping it a low glycemic index. It's whole grain bread, it's seeded, it's got loads of stuff in there to reduce the glycemic index. His usual cup of coffee. And then on the left here is kefir or kefir, which is a fermented milk, which is, again, something I recommend to a lot of my clients, because kefir has between 60 and 90 different types of bacteria that will help your gut with digestion. You know, those little bottles of Yakult or those little probiotic tablets you can get, they've got 1 bacteria in it. If you have a Greek yogurt, that's got 4 bacteria in it. Homemade kefir, rather than the store-bought one, homemade has between 60 and 90 different types of bacteria in it. So it really is kind of the gold standard. If you buy it in a supermarket in a bottle pre-made, it's only going to have about 4 or 5. And I only recently found out the reason for that is if they had any more, the bottles would explode because it would continue to ferment like champagne. It would just pop. So I recommend trying kefir from the store first, because it is an acquired taste. It is basically sour milk. It takes a little bit getting used to, and once you're used to it, you might then want to think about, yeah, if you like it, great. If you don't, there are other things you can have, but it's so good for you. And there's more and more stuff coming out about gut bacteria, how it affects you, how it's good for you. 90% of the serotonin created in your body is created from the gut bacteria. It's an enzyme that's produced from what the gut bacteria make. So for people with depression, have a think about looking at your gut bacteria and trying to make it as varied as possible. So that was his breakfast. Let's go on to his before lunch. At least he's having a Diet Coke. So yeah, you just think, okay, where do I go from here? So obviously it's a small step process. We change things slowly. You know, he's got some veg on the side there. Okay, we've got some protein. Okay, let's go for probably don't need the bread. If you're going to have bread, have wholemeal, have seeded. If you're going to have bread, maybe have some crackers instead. So you're getting a smaller quantity and reducing that. Breaded chicken, that's going to count as your carbohydrate. So if you're having breaded chicken or breaded anything, and bread and potatoes, you're double, triple carbing. And it's my favorite phrase is yeah, you don't need to double carb. You're getting plenty, don't worry about it. So that was his lunch. And don't forget, he's already had breakfast. And then he had the bread and the ham and the the bun with the butter on top for lunch because that wasn't filling her up. And then he's having this for lunch. So later on, this is now his meal. And what I really like about this, it's not just that it's got good quality protein. It's got loads of veg on there. It's got quinoa with more veg mixed into it. He's got more veg on the side. It's not just that, but also look at how he's presented it. He's taking care with what he's eating. He's actually enjoying sitting down and eating his food. He's put a napkin out, for Christ's sake, with a napkin ring. I mean, who does that? For himself. He lives on his own. This is just for him. Nobody else is there. And the reason why he does this and how he can do this is because he will make 2 of these and he'll have one tomorrow, or he'll have the rest of it for lunch. So he's no longer just cooking for one meal, one person. He's making it more effective. And that has all sort of taken a while to get to this stage, and he continues to make improvements. And the interesting thing is that at no point have we ever counted calories, ever. In the 11 months that we've been working together, we've never counted a single calorie. This is all we've done, focused on getting about 50% of your plate full of veg, about 25% of your plate full of protein, about 20% of a low glycemic index carbohydrate. Interesting fun fact, quinoa is also a complete protein. So if you want to get a grainy type replacement for rice or couscous, then quinoa is a great replacement for that because it's also going to have protein in there as well. So give quinoa a go. And then about 5% fat is a rough guide. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, but good fats, olive oils, avocados, those sorts of things. This canola oil, or rapeseed oil as we call it here in the UK, it's got a lot of bad rap for apparently being causing inflammatory issues. That's not true. Vegetable oils are okay. The only thing you want to avoid are the vegetable oils that have been made solid, because they are trans fats. And those types of fats are the fats you get in microwave popcorn. So if you're going to have popcorn, don't buy the stuff off the shelf that's already in the solid fat. That's pure trans fat. That's going to stick to your arteries like glue. Just make your own popcorn, and it's low calorie, it's low in fat, it's a hell of a lot better for you. Popcorn is great. So whilst he was doing these meals, he was getting fuller for longer and just naturally reducing the size of his meals. And in the 11 months, he hasn't really plateaued. He's continued to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week for the 11 months. And that's the thing, it takes time. It's not a quick fix. You didn't take 12 weeks to get where you are today. It's going to take longer than that to get through it. So this it's a little bit out of date now because we're obviously in November, but this is towards these are 2 months per gap. So it is towards the end of October here. So when we first started working together, Bill was 235 pounds. And interestingly enough, for the first 4 weeks, he didn't lose a single pound, which for a lot of people would have been enough to fire me. Fair enough. Yep. Okay. You haven't lost a single pound. However, in the background, we also had his blood sugar levels as well. And so he could see his blood sugar was going down. So he wasn't too worried yet about that. And then suddenly it went down, a little spike up and then down. And you know what? Every time it would go up, that's when he'd notice. That's when he would think, I'm not losing any weight. That's when he would think, I've hit a plateau. Because that's what happens when you're on your own, when you don't have somebody going, well, actually, if you have a look at the average over the last so many days, you've actually lost weight. Every time a client says to me, oh, I've put on a pound, it's like, yeah, but if you look back over the last 4 weeks, on average, you have still lost a pound a week. There's going to be these natural fluctuations. And as you can see, it continues to go down and down, consistently down. Nothing has changed. We're just doing what I said, 50% veg, 25% protein, 20% low glycemic index carbs, and 5% fat. I haven't told him to count a single calorie, and he gets down to this level. At this point here, he goes to America and has a fall and comes down with some kind of illness when he goes to America. Now, the particular place he went to in America decided not to do a COVID test because it couldn't possibly be that. It's in the middle of a pandemic. But anyway, so we'll never know really what made him ill, but he was ill. He wasn't eating a lot. So he did have a big weight loss. And I was like, okay, we need to slow you down. And it continued to go down. He did eat a little bit more, but it wasn't until he got home and got back to eating the way that he likes to eat, with the food that he enjoys, for the meals that he was making, not American portions. Sorry, Americans, but what the hell are you doing with your portion size control? And then you can see it kind of a little bit of a plateau. But I was like, that's fine, because what you're actually doing is you're going back to your trend line. If you have a look, he's actually gone back to where he should be. And once I explained that to him, he was like, ah, okay, cool. We'll just keep doing what we're doing. And sure enough, once he hit back to his natural level, he began to lose weight again. And he has now gone from 234 pounds. The last time I spoke to him earlier on today, he's 178 pounds. So he's actually now, I say, hey, BMI, but he's now normal in BMI terms. He's gone below overweight. And for those of you that are diabetic and have any kind of insulin resistance, when I first started working with him, he was taking 2 different types of insulin. Lantus is the top line, and that's long-acting insulin. So he injects that at night, and that will basically last for about 24 hours, slowly releasing into his system. The bottom one is fast-acting insulin. So he would take his blood 2, 3, 4 times a day and see if he needed to give himself a top-up of that. So when he started working with me, he was on about 72 units of Lantus and about 65 units of fast-acting insulin. So as you can see, when he wasn't losing weight, that first 4 weeks, suddenly he wasn't needing as much fast-acting insulin. His blood sugar was more under control. He was able to reduce that significantly, to the point that by the time we got to April, there were days when he didn't need any fast-acting insulin, and he'd already been reducing his long-acting insulin as well. Now, this is all under doctor's orders. I am not qualified to tell people to stop taking insulin. I would not do that. This is his doctor's criteria of, if you hit a certain blood sugar level consistently for a number of days, you can reduce your medication. And this is basically what he was doing. By the end of, and I think that this middle bit here is probably when he went away. It might be here actually. But you can see by the end of June, he no longer took fast-acting insulin. He only now takes the long-acting slow-release insulin. And by the end of, about October, he was down to about 22. Just spoke to him today. He's now down to 18 units of long-lasting slow-release insulin. So at the moment, we're hoping that by March, maybe February, he can go to his doctor and remove insulin altogether. Maybe. I mean, it's a nice hope. It's a nice target to have. But again, for him, it's more about this than it is the weight. But the weight is kind of intrinsically tied up with the two together. So I hope that makes sense. And I hope that gives you an idea of what I'm going to be asking you to do for your homework. So your homework is to take and post a picture of your food over the next 24 hours. And either you can post the pictures in the group or you can send them to me privately. That's absolutely fine. But post a picture of the food that you have over the next 24 hours. And for each picture, at least 3 pictures. For each picture, you'll get another entry into the prize draw of maximum 3. You can send as many as you want. When I work with people, they literally send me every single thing they eat and drink throughout every single day. And they're like, oh, is it not boring you? It's like, no, this is like a fantastic way of tracking, and just goes to show you that you don't need to calorie count if you're more aware of what's on your plate. And by taking these pictures and sending them to me, the first thing is like, oh shit, Paul's going to see this. I better make it look good. I better make it look like he said. So 50% veg, 25% protein, 20% carbs. And that is going to be at the forefront of your mind. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I will provide you with advice, suggestion, and feedback on the next call. And I also want you to record your before video. So what do you feel like you got out of today? And what are you hoping to get out of the rest of the calls? And that will basically help me make sure that what you're looking to get out of these calls, I can, if it's not included already, I'll make sure it's included. And also to help you keep accountable and to make sure that you do get something out of these calls and that you do feel like you're making progress, so that I can make sure that each individual person feels like they've had a little bit of attention to make sure that they know what they need to do next. So, guys, any questions, first of all, before I do anything else? Or does that all make perfect sense and you're just happy to just do exactly that? Does anybody have any questions? Go on, Philip, go on. Go on, Phil.
No, no, fine. Yes, it's just a question of concentrating a bit more, I think. But yes, no, it all makes sense, really. And it reinforces what we did earlier in the year, really. But no.
What is it you feel that you need to concentrate on? What is it you're worried that is going to distract you?
I think it's willpower probably is weakening a bit. I've been having a few cakes and things like that. So it's not so much portion control with me. I've got that right, I think. So it's a question of not being sidetracked during the day, in between meals, perhaps. And also perhaps, yes, I've had a couple of ready meals as opposed to preparing a meal from scratch occasionally if I'm in the middle of doing some work. But even then, I'm very selective on what I'm picking. But most of the time, it's it's raw fish or raw meat. But no, so it is this business of being persuaded. When I go and have a coffee, I don't have a patisserie as well. I don't have a pastry.
There's nothing wrong.
They
with
look so attractive.
They do. There's a reason for that. It's so that you buy them and eat them. So there is nothing wrong with having a bit of cake. There's nothing wrong with having a ready meal. There's nothing wrong with having a takeaway. The issue is the frequency that you have and Absolutely. The quantity that you have. If you're having a piece of cake and a coffee once a week, who gives a shit? Absolutely fine, no problem. If you're having
But
it
that's
every
where it
single day,
started, you see.
Yeah.
I was doing a once a week thing, and I thought, oh, it's midweek. Perhaps I can. Yeah.
yeah, it can be a slippery slope, but that's why it's important to have something like this, something like a coach, somebody to remind you and keep you accountable and pull you back just once in a while, just to sort of, you know, check in and see how you're getting on.
It's what you say, you see. If we're on our own, it is more difficult, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's calorie free if nobody sees you eat it. Does anybody else have any questions? Dawn, you must have questions. Yeah, just unmute yourself. Go ahead.
When you talk about posting, where do we post it?
Are you a member of the Facebook group?
I think I am, yes.
Okay, but you can post them in there.
Okay.
If you want to, you can post them on your personal profile. Or you can just send me a Facebook message. It really doesn't matter. Just the idea is that you put it out there and somebody else sees it. That's what I'm aiming for. So either post it into the Facebook group, post it on your personal profile. Obviously, if we're not friends, I might not see it. So you might need to send me a friend request. I'm not sure if we're friends on Facebook. I've got 4,000 friends, so I lose a little bit of track. So post it on there, tag me in it, or post it in the group, tag me in it. To tag me, just do the @ and type Paul Bailey, and it will let me know that you posted it. Okay. Alternatively, just send it to me in a private message. That would work as well. It really is a case of just getting it out there so that you kind of released it into the world. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? I won't bully anybody else. If you want to ask a question, you can, but I have to bully some people. So right, yeah. So what I would do is I'm going to send. Did everybody get? I'm assuming you all got the email because you all got on today. So I'll send out a follow-up email, just as a reminder of what I'd like you to do for your homework. And if you have any questions or problems between now and tomorrow, just send me a message on Facebook, send me a private message, and it might be something that I can bring up on the next call because other people have questions and we'll probably want to have a chat about it as well. But if you're not sure, you didn't feel comfortable about saying it today, just send me a private message and then we can have a chat about it then and see if there's anything I can do to help. So cool. All right. So we'll leave that there for today. If you do have any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch. And I hope to see you tomorrow. If you're not able to make it, then do get a premium ticket and then you get the recording as well. But otherwise, I really, really thank you so much for your participation, because it would really look stupid if I did this on my own and just chat away. So I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time and for taking part as well. So thank you very much, guys. Take care. Have a great evening, and I will see you all tomorrow.
Thank you, Paul. Great.
Thank you.
See you, Paul.
Bye-bye.
Bye all.
Right.